Hi everyone, I'm Janelle with Toons Unlimited, and for this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create different sprites, additional sprites for your characters so that they can look like they've been battered and bruised. Coming up next. ToonsUnlimited.com. So here we are. I have just a nice little stage scene here. There's no type of animation going on, but it clearly implies what's getting ready to happen or what's been happening to Walter here. So originally, when I was going to do this tutorial, I had created one of my custom characters and I was going to show you how to modify it. But then I thought, you know what? There's a lot of people who may want to modify some of the basic characters from Volusion. And so I figured this would be a more informative video to take a pre-made character and modify him so that he will look like he's been in some type of accident, fight, or altercation. So I figured, Saul was too easy. Of course, there's a body template out there that you can just modify him. But what if you wanted to do something for Emma or, in this example, Walter? How would you do it? So for this tutorial, I actually broke it up in little pieces, and on the right side of the panel, on the right side of the screen, you can see an actual little toolbar that has icons here, and these icons will allow you to skip through various stages of this tutorial, so that if you wanted to get straight to how I do my battered and bruised eye expressions, you can pop to it. If you wanted to get to the section where how do I take a Relusion character and make a template so that I can then build the sprites on top of it, you can go to that portion. And if you want to skip all the way to the end to see how everything comes together and looks inside of Talk Animator, you can skip to that portion as well. So feel free to use the toolbar. It will make jumping back and forth easy. I will also have different stages of this tutorial in the links below. But let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so here we are in Crazy Talk Animator, and one of the first things you want to do is go ahead and create your facial template. So I'm going to use Walter, and I'm going to turn him to the 315 angle. And what I really want is to remove everything except his face so that I have a nice, good facial template. Now, what I'm going to do is copy his face, and I'm going to go ahead and paste this into Adobe Animate, and this will be my face template so that I make sure my dimensions and everything for my sprites match up with the existing character. So now we can go back and start to separate all of these pieces out so that I can then start to create copies of these pieces in the application. So here what I'm trying to do now is just start to slowly build up the features, and I'm using the line tool for these expressions. I'm basically just creating my lines and getting everything to look the way I want, and I'm using the eyedropper to get the same color tones, and once I have everything looking the way I want, deleting my lines and basically putting each one of these facial sprites or expressions on different layers so that we can create the layering that we need to match up with our regular template. Next, I'm going to go ahead and slide over to the face, and I'm going to basically do the exact same steps. Use the line tool, create my expressions to match up with the template, get all of the lines and the line width and everything, the colors the way I want to, and start to go ahead and put this on a different layer and move things up to the facial template. So now that we have an individual face and nose, we're going to move it up to the template and line it up so that we can see how our expressions will look as if it was in Crazy Talk Animator. So there's no guesswork. You're going to know how everything looks when it comes together. And I'm going to go ahead and align the nose as well. So we're going to hop back over now real quick and just to make a copy of the eyebrows so we have some type of reference and I know where it looks compared to where the eyes is at. There's no real expressions we need to do with the eyebrows, but we just want to have them there for reference. And now I'm going to go ahead and draw out my eyes so that they look the same as the existing characters. And we're going to get all of that in the positions as well on the face. And although he has two different eye expressions, I'm going to go ahead and just use this one the left eye as my template for now. If you wanted to do more with it, or if you wanted to look exactly like the existing character, then I would recommend that you do the same steps for the right eye, but for tutorial purposes, the left eye is the only one that's really needed. Make sure when you're doing your eyes that you have your layering correct. Keep in mind that in order to create an eye, you have to have the image layer, your your pupil layer, and your mask layer, and they have to be converted into movie clips, and the instances have to be named the exact same way: image, pupil, and mask layer. If not, your eyeballs will not move around when it's in the Crazy Talk Animator application. So what I will do is I'm going to just right now put them on the right layers, but before I import this into the application, I am going to go back and make sure that I map it out the way I need to. So now that we have a copy of the eye and they're in the layering that I need for animation, I'm just going to go ahead and move this. I'm going to go ahead and color it and then move this up so that it's with my template and it's in the exact location it needs so I can see how everything's supposed to look for animation. Okay, so for the hair, um, there is a lot of streaks or different color tones going on with Walter's hair, and I'm going to briefly demonstrate how you would create the streaks, but I will not do the entire hair with the streaks, just a handful so that you understand the concept. But to make the animation, to make this video as short but productive, it's easier for me to just color the rest one color and get it located where it needs to be located at. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly convert this face expression into a movie clip, and we still need to do the mouth. But before we go over to the mouth, just so that the character looks normal, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate the eye expression to the right side so that when I'm doing my animation, I have a realistic look of the face. Then I'm just gonna hop down and quickly just use this mouth. This mouth is just mainly to make sure we have the mouth location in the right spot. It's our template that we're going to start off with. And we're going to make sure that we tag it as a mouth expression. And now we have a full face. We don't need to do the ears, but we have enough of the look that we can get started. So our first one we're going to work on is a bruise on the cheek. I'm going to put it right in that area, and we're going to actually do two different styles. But the first one will be using the gradient tool, and I will basically just create a nice little shiner on his left side of his face, and I'm still using the line tool for this, so it's very easy to do. You don't have to have a drawing tablet for this. We're doing all of this with the mouse, but it's mainly finding some colors that you want to work with that shows the indication of a bruise. In this case, I'm using this purple color tone, and you're going to see me kind of play around with the blend of his skin tone and the blend of this purple tone to indicate that he's bruised there. to see if I can come up with a nice um, variation that's good for his facial features. Okay, so for this portion, we're going to go and hop over to the eye, and we want to make some sprite adjustments for his black eye. So the first thing I want to do is go out for a second. I want the two eyes to be separate, so I'm going to create a duplicate so that I can label that as my right eye, so that when I make adjustments to my left eye, they don't both show up at the same time. So now that we are back into the left eye expression, we're going to use the same colors as we did for the bruise, except for he's already got bags under his eyes, but I want it to be a little bit deeper to indicate that, he's definitely been banged up a little bit. With the brush tool, and I'm using my drawing tablet, but with the brush tool, I'm going to go ahead and create a little darker line underneath the eye so that it stresses out the black eye a little bit more. And since we're going to be doing more than one eye expression, I want to make sure that I go back out real quick and create another duplicate of this eye so that I can have different frames be different expressions. So when I label this the left eye, now when I go in, I can have one for the open eye. I'm going to go ahead and create another keyframe so that I won't have to redraw any of this artwork. I can have everything exactly the same, but now start to work on a different eye expression. I will say before you get started, make sure that you go out and you rename each one of your new frames to a different title. If not, you're just going to be rewriting over what you've already done. So this will be my half eye expression that I work on next. I'm going to go into it, and now I can just create a new layer and start to create the half eye open expression that I want for this character. And I'm going to use the same colors that I've been using in the past, maybe just different shading levels, but I'll be using the same colors. And I really want to bring out that expression, so I think I'm going to raise the eyelids at the top, so that the eye is more puffy at the top to really indicate that he's been banged up a little bit. So going inside, just stretching it out a little bit and evening out so that it looks more rounded. Okay, so now that we have that expression done, we're going to go out. We're going to do one more eye sprite, and that's going to be with the eyes completely shut. So once again, before you adjust the keyframe, make sure you make a duplicate copy and rename it. This will be the closed eye expression. And now we can go in and delete that line work because it won't write over what we've already done. And with this one, I'm going to create a line right in the middle of the eye so that it's clearly understood that the character's eyes is shut. This is a black eye with its eye closed. And because this guy, I want him to appear like he's in pain when he closes his eye, I'm going to make the lines a little bit thicker, and I'm just going to add a slight line for shading to indicate the bruise a little better. Okay, so now that we have our eye expressions done, I'm going to hop over to the nose, and for the nose, I want to create a little animated nosebleed. So So what I'm going to do is with the onion skin layer on, I'm going to draw my nose bleed happening in each frame. I'm just going to go out just a little bit further from the previous frame until we have a nice little nose that's running. And nothing fancy. You can make it longer or shorter, however you want it. But in this case, I just did a quick animation. Now, I will say it's pretty fast, and if you want to slow it down, you can add additional frames to it. But since this is just a tutorial and I'm just giving you some ideas, throwing ideas, this will be enough to make our animation look the way we want it to look. Now, earlier I said that there were two versions or two ways that you can do bruises. There are a lot of ways, but another way that you can do a bruise is using the blur, um, using a adding a blur to the face. So in this case, we're going to start off with a basic circle. We're going to add a blur to that circle, and then we start to put um, a nice little border to indicate the bruise. Another thing you can do, you definitely want to do, is once you have everything looking the way you want, just go ahead and knock down the opacity so that it blends with the skin. And if the bruise is too dark, you can always take it a few shades up so that everything looks nice and normal. Just for added bonus, I'm going to add a nice little cut to the face just so that the bruise has a little bit more going for it. Okay, so we have all of these things going, but I want to make a quick modification to the eyebrow expression just so I can see Walter with a different look. Now we've done a bruise on the face, but there's a lot more that we can do. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and I think we can create some blood coming down from Walter's head. So while I'm on the the facial sprite, I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer. And this is where I'm going to start to draw out a nice blood flow coming from his top of his head all the way down to the bottom of his face. Okay, so we'll add the color to it, and you can really do some shading if you want to. I'm going to leave this alone the way it currently is, but you can add another layer for shading if you want more detail. But now we have the mouth to work on, so we're going to zoom in to Walter's mouth. This first one was just a template. Now we're going to create a new frame, and I'm going to bring the onion tool back up just because I want to make sure when I draw my mouth expressions that they're lining up where they need to line up on the screen, so that I'm making the right size and depth. So for the first one, I'm drawing a simple grin with a blood flow. We'll do one with his mouth kind of open. And for this last one, we'll just do three of them. For this last one, we will draw him with a tooth missing. So you might want to do a pose. In this case, we'll have him just smiling, but this time when he's smiling, instead of showing his regular teeth, he's going to have a nice little tooth missing in the middle. Okay, so we have a lot going on with this character, but we can do some more stuff. So with the hair sprite, I would like to go into it, and I'm going to create some bandages over his head and just kind of make his hair look a little bit more roughed up. I'm going to keep the same shape and dimensions so that when I import it into the application, it looks exactly the same. And so before we wrap up with the character, I think we can add just a little bit more options to the face. So I want to go in and draw a bandage on the right side of his face. And these will be different facial expressions we can swap out depending on how bad you want this character to look. But we're going to draw some bandages on his face. And well, and I also wanted to just take all of these different features now and break them up in different sections. So I'm going to create multiple copies of the face and then put different variations together with the bandage and the bruise, or the running blood from the head and the bruise, and just give it options that if you wanted to make a different look, you won't have to go back and redraw um, your options all over again. You can just mix and match it for how bad you want Walter to be beat up. Okay, let's do a quick recap. So we basically have the 315 angle of Walter, modified with various flavors of different sprites now that reflect him in some type of accident, whether he's battered, bruised, bleeding, whatever. He's in various stages of being hurt. And now, in order to get all of these new pieces into the application, you will have to import them individually. So what we want to do is make sure, I believe we have everything broken up, but stuff like, keep in mind that this was just for tutorial practices, because his hair is actually missing a few of the streaks as well. But this was going to show you how you can take a a pre-made character, whether it's your own or not, if you wanted to expand on it and create other mods, so that depending on what's going on with your animation, your character's already rigged for it. This is how you would do it. Now, if you're creating your own brand new character, of course, you can do your own flavor and it will be tailored to whatever your character wants. But in this case, you don't have to create bandages for every angle, if you know, in fact, when you do your close-ups or when you do that scene, it's only going to be in one or two angles. If that's the case, take the time out, do what you just saw in these the earlier part of this tutorial, where you take the pieces of the character's face, break them up in small pieces, and from there reconstruct them in Adobe Animate, where you can then go over top of it and add your own mix and flavors, your own spices to these characters. So in this case, I don't need this first sprite of Walter's hair. I just want the one that's him with the bandage. So that will be one mod. When I go to the eyes, I want all three of these. His normal eye would look like this, and that's fine. I still want, you know, if I wanted to expand on the right eye, I could have made modifications to that as well. So depending on where I want my character punched, whether I want it on the left eye or the right eye, he would have all of those mods done to it. In this case, to keep the video as short as possible, I went on it and just worked on the left eye. The eyebrows, I mean, you could have always put splits, or you could have had his eyebrow ripped up. You could have put some type of thin bandage on his eyebrow, but in this case, I really just left it alone. I just changed the expression just to see when I import him in and I have all of my other eyebrow expressions prepared, I can see some of the other expressions I would be able to perform. So this was just more to get a visual. I really don't need this particular expression. It can easily be recreated. So for the nose, there will be no reason to import the first stage of the nose where there's no type of blood animation. I could do a few things. I could separate some of these out, and if I wanted just to have a small amount of blood as just a regular static prop, meaning that's just how it looks, he's got a small amount of blood on his face, I can do that. Or I can do the whole animation, and when you go into it, it would just look like he bled out. So you can mix it up, and you might say, oh, I like this version and I just want it to be just like that. And if that's the case, you would take this version of the sprite and save it as its own. You could say, you know, nose bloody nose, and this one could be like the full animation can be with a different title. Entirely up to you how you want to mix it to expand on it. But in this case, I would just go ahead and import two versions of this character, which is the animation of the nose running and then the final frame, which is right here by itself, so that it's a static image. So once the animation is completed, I would switch over to that frame, and that will stay that way. If not, when you're in Crazy Talk Animator, it would just keep looping over and over again, and it would look weird. So if you know, hey, I only have 9 frames of animation, you want on frame 10 just to switch over to that static image. And then let's see here, the face expression. The face, I went on and added some more frames just to have different variations. So you have him with no bruises, and that might be great. That's the regular face expression, so there's no need to import this one in. But if you wanted him to have a simple bandage on there, or just, a bruised cheek, you might just want the blood coming down. And this is just different variations of those 3 sprites. So in this case, the bruised face and the bandage, the bloody head, and the bruised cheek. It's just different variations. And this last one is all of them combined. So I would recommend breaking it up in those pieces, because depending on if the character got punched on the cheek, you might go from this to after he gets punched a few times, a close up showing just this. Or, your character might get hit over the head with a pole, and then you're showing him like this, or you're showing him in the hospital. However, the variation is, your character's ready for it. So that's what you want. And then finally, I only did a very, very small handful of mouth expressions, and you could really go to town on this particular one. You may want to redo your speech, your speech sprites, so that if he wanted to talk while blood was still on his mouth, he could do that. Or you might just want to have it set for a still image, like I did for a few of these. So there will be no reason to import the first one. The first one is just a guide. It was a template to let you know where your mouth location should be at, about the same. You want to keep things at the same size and try to maintain a similar consistency. And so that was just a guide to where your markers should be at. It's no need to import the first frame. You would just want to focus on the 3 variations where his mouth was open. And I could have easily added a little, blood here, or something going on to that effect, a bruise, something coming on from the mouth. But I just did a new variation just to see how he would look at this time, because you know the understanding of, I'm going to create a new document, and here is where I would start to pop in all of my sprites. I would do it. Big tip: if you're working with the eyes, make sure that your layering is correct. Image layer, pupil layer, mask layer. And when you go into it, you have to make sure, like in this case, I don't have them done. This first frame, it has to be converted into a symbol called image. Right now, it's not. I would need to hit F8, make this a movie clip, and call it image. Same thing with this one. The pupil is not done. I would need to hit F8, call it pupil, and then finally the mask layer, F8, mask, and then go ahead and lock those layers back. And now when I import it in, the eyes are still capable of moving around within, um, the pupil is capable of moving around within the eye socket. So that's a huge tip. You don't want your eyes to be just stationary, especially if you want to do eye animation while he's talking. make sure you do those pieces. Of course, you don't need to, it's not needed for the closed eye because there's no pupils moving around. But if you're doing other expressions other than this half eye closed, say for example, this one where he's just got a black eye at the bottom, make sure you go through and mark these accordingly. And if you have the puppet tool like me, you can make haste time by just going to each layer and hitting the image button, the pupil button, and the mask button, and it would automatically do all of the naming conventions and converting it into a movie clip for you to save you a lot of time. So there you have it. I will skip the part of me importing this, and I will show you how some of this stuff looks in Crazy Talk Animator so you can see a completed project with everything in place. Okay, so here I am back in Crazy Talk Animator, and I wanted to show you how everything turned out. So this is Walter at his normal 315 angle, and I have added all of the pieces in there, and I would say everything came out nice. The only thing I personally would have made modifications to was that my line width for the border of the sprites, I could have probably taken it down from 6 to 4. So we're gonna try to rig this up and see what kind of looks we can get with this character. I'm gonna go ahead and put in a black eye here with his eyes closed, and maybe have it halfway closed here. Using some of the regular expressions with this guy. See if we can get him somewhat rigged up to be in a little bit of pain. Um, let's go with the regular bloody nose and see where some of his mouth expressions fall in at. Um, let's go with the face, see what we can get on his face. Let's just bring all of them in so we can have the full effect of it, and then his bandage hair. And what I can do with the transform tool is really make sure, not the transform, the deform tool, I can really make sure that the blood lines up to the lip like I want. And testing the pupil animation, I don't know why, for some reason, it's always best to go into the facial key editor first before you even start animating, because it doesn't seem to hold the initial sprites when you um, do it before the facial rigging. So I'm just going to go back in and pop in those expressions. I don't know if it was this one, probably not. But it's a glitch that Relusion will need to work on. Um, let me go to the deform tool to really make that mouth expression work with the nosebleed. It's kind of like that. And let's see if we want to do something a little special with the eyebrow. And just testing out the facial puppeteering just to make sure the eyes and stuff, he can really look like, which way did it go, who hit me, or just playing around with it and see what can go on. So everything came out very nicely. This makes a excellent close-up animation. You could easily expand on some of the body limbs. He can be in crutches. He can be in a cast. You can redo parts of his shirt, make it look a little bit ripped. Some cuts and bruises there. You can always go with the hashtags, little bruises on the face. But really mix and match this up and get a nice effect. And once again, I would save this head inside of Crazy Talk Animator, and whenever you don't have to always use it for Walter, but whenever you want to pop it in, it's a quick pop in and a close up, and it looks exactly like regular Walter because we duplicated his dimensions and his sprite expressions, and now you have a pre-made character with a hell of a lot more features to do more stuff. So I hope you like the tutorial on Battered and Bruised, and you can then apply it to either your own custom characters that you make, or now you know how to modify existing content to your liking to really get what you want to do out of your animation. Hope this helps. Take care. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to my channel for new content every week. If you would like to purchase my product, head over to my store for characters, props, and scenes. If you enjoyed this video, here is a link to another video you might like from this channel. Thanks for joining and take care.